Hey guys, it's HD here, and today we're going to be covering a bunch of glitches that still work in Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door Switch Remake. I have roughly 25 to show, ranging from silly small ones, completely breaking the graphics in numerous ways, and whatever this is. Nintendo put out a single update for this game about a month ago, version 1.0.1, which patched out a few of the biggest glitches. But trust me, there are a lot that they left in. Before we start, quick shout out to the Paper Mario TTYD speedrunning Discord for finding most of these, especially the people on screen. But I'm so happy to be covering one of my favorite games again, so let's jump right in. Starting us off is a pretty mild but cool visual glitch. Before your partner Bobbery joins you after Chapter 4, he lives in this house in East Rogueport next to the Trouble Center. Normally you have to go all the way around to the right, climb up on the roof, and go tube mode down this chimney. But we're going to use the tube to enter in a different way. Go paper mode to squeeze into this alleyway and try and go into tube mode while squeezed in here. You have to be pretty close to the start of the buildings in order for the game to allow this to happen, so have Mario pretty much lined up with the edges here and rotate the control stick. If you are far enough in the alley when Mario goes tube mode, he'll be partially clipped inside Bobbery's house. Hold up left and hop a few times, which should push Mario inside the wall. Now you are inside Bobbery's house with the camera remaining outside. All you can really see at first is your shadows, but let's fix that. Walk to the door in the back of the main room, which causes the camera to finally catch up to you. But the real cool part happens when you leave and go back in the main room. Yeah, since the game never got to open up this room, the camera is still in this intermediate state where it shows both the inside of the room and part of Rogueport outside. You can see the buildings around you, this bandit who is still walking around, as well as the water underneath. Looks really weird in this way. I think the water is the best part of this, as normally the game blacks out everything besides the building you are in, so I like it. Also, the two chairs that are normally in this corner are invisible for some reason, but you can still stand on them. So the question is, does this let you get Bobbery and start Chapter 5 early? Not really. Even though you do get tube mode in Chapter 4, I don't think the game will let you open the letter from his wife, Rip, convincing him to go until you complete Chapter 4. Because even if you did get tube mode, you can also just go around and go through the chimney, so I don't think the game would let you anyway. However, all hope is not lost, as technically speaking, this clip can be faster than going around like normal up to the roof. You would just have to get this on your first or second try though, or else it would be a time loss. So kinda useful, I guess, but honestly, I just like doing it for this view more. Looks really cool with the water underneath and the bandit just walking around. While that was cool being able to clip into a house, let's clip out of one now. And we can do it right next door at Professor Frankly's house. Head inside, and off to the right is this bucket filled with rolled up paper. We need to jump into it and land inside so Mario is facing the screen and looking left. It's kinda tricky to do this as the game tries to kick you out, but eventually you should be able to land in there. You want to be positioned where a tiny bit of Mario's overall button is showing like this. You can do some short hops while clipped inside of here in order to get this. From here, we need to have Yoshi as our partner as we need to hop on him. But first we need to tap the control stick up left to cause Mario to begin rotating around. If you hop on Yoshi at the right time while doing this, Mario should mount him and then get pushed through the front of the wall. We are basically now out of bounds, with Mario and Yoshi getting blacked out as the lighting is focused on Frankly's house. After running around, it's pretty easy to notice that we are now in an invisible Rogueport, as the collision is the same as if we were standing outside. There's still a lot more we can do with this, but first I wanted to explore around and see how far I could get off of memory. For starters, I went behind the fake brick wall, causing the camera to rotate to the side, giving us another interesting view. Again, if you have a good memory of Rogueport's layout, you're able to get around the same way. Load zones and doors do not work in this state either. You can go back into Frankly's house, but we'll get to that in a minute. I managed to find the alley we can squeeze through that we just used for the last glitch, which flipped the camera around, completely losing sight of the house. Now we are just in a gray void. I decided it was time to go back in the room, but the best is yet to come. Upon going back through the door, we get a very interesting version of Rogueport. All the buildings are now gone, along with NPCs, the pipe to the sewers, and all the transformation panels like the boat one. Not really sure why this happens. I guess once you enter a building, the other ones disappear, but it just looks so strange seeing these big empty gaps. I then carefully made it up to the top of the roofs and rolled down through Bobbery's chimney. Leaving the door caused the building to appear again, so at least we were able to save one house. I whacked some of the invisible NPCs and then squeezed through to the back side. This also removes the water, so there was just this white void below me. I did get to see what the fish sequence looked like under the water. He kinda just stands blankly for a second, then as the fish appears, he gets pushed upward. Going back in and out of Frankly's house does not correct this state either, but by going through any load zone, everything will be back to normal. So this is already one of my favorite glitches as it causes so many visual errors. The only downside to this is actually clipping through the house. It's pretty tricky to time the up left press to get Mario to rotate and then hop on Yoshi at the right time. If you're having trouble getting into the roll of papers, I recommend ground pounding as it lets you land in there easier than just jumping at it. I really love this one and gives you a lot to mess around with, so if you're screwing around in the game already or just bored, definitely try this one out. Alright, we're now heading off to one of my favorite locations in the game, Glitzville. The new music for it is also really good, by the way. Anyway, this hot dog stand in the upper left is run by Mr. Hoggle. A glizzy is the only thing on his menu, but that is not why we are here. During Chapter 3, while you're in the Glitz pit back behind us, you get word that Mr. Hoggle has gotten hold of an egg that jumps on top of the food truck. Don't really want to play up to this point in the game again, so with the power of 10 years of editing experience, I will paint a picture of what this would look like. Perfect. There's a Yoshi in that egg if you couldn't tell. You cannot progress without him. Well, you're supposed to walk all the way across to the other side of Glitzville, jump up these stairs, go on this spring, and then go plane mode to glide to the top of the cart. Well, using this ice cream cone stand, you can get there a whole lot faster. Come up to the left side of it, hold ZR to go into paper mode, and then try to jump up it. You have to do 2 jumps in total, one to the edge of the cone, and then one to get on top of the vanilla. You kind of slide off the side, so I recommend trying to basically double jump while holding right. It can be tricky to get, but eventually you will end up on top. From here, you can go out of paper mode, and we now need to just jump onto this edge of the awning. So you have like a step or two to get a running start, you kind of dip down at first, and then the jump gives you enough height to clip up to the top. And now we can grab the egg that is totally here. But seriously, this does save you like 15 seconds in a speedrun if you can get it within the first few attempts, as you don't have to go all the way around. Not too difficult once you learn the jump. Getting on top of the ice cream is definitely the hardest part of this. Every time I got up, I never failed to jump across, so there is some leeway with that one. We aren't done with the jumps though, as there are a few more we can do. This one in Rogueport Sewers sub-level 1, where you first fight Blooper in the prologue. If you go into boat mode using the panel and sail over to the other side, you'll notice a pipe in the background with a platform that we just can't reach. Well, if we go into tube mode, shove Mario up against the front wall, roll straight, and jump at just the right time, you can land on the platform back there. Took me a few tries, but it's similar to the ice cream cone. You want to begin falling off the platform as you go to jump. The game gives you a little extra time to input a jump, which is nice. But now that we're here, we can go into this pipe that leads to the background. And inside the house is another star piece resting in this hammock. I already got it, but I did it without the glitch, which means you would need to get the Ultra Boots, which are located about halfway into Chapter 6 at Railside Station. And you get the boat mode transformation during Chapter 5, so if you really need one more star piece for a badge or something, this could be useful. It probably does save a few seconds too, as shimmying across this pipe there and back takes longer than sailing on the water. Another tube jump can be done in the east side of Rogueport. This chest down here contains the double dip badge, and the intended way is going boat mode all the way around from behind the Trouble Center. Like I said before, you unlock the boat in Chapter 5, but tube mode in Chapter 4. So by doing a tricky tube jump, we're able to get over this fence below. Before I show the actual setup, I need to show you a trick with the partner ring. In the remake, holding L will bring up this neat little partner ring, but it also has the ability to stop you on a dime. When rolling around in tube mode, it usually takes a second or two after you let go of the control stick to come to a complete stop, but with this you can be flying at full speed, pull up the partner ring, and stop completely. We're going to use this to roll Mario up as close as possible to this bottom right corner. We also need to be on a diagonal angle so we can get as much of a rolling start as possible, since we need some speed to clear this fence. Use the partner ring to slowly creep forward, and once in position that looks like this with Mario practically off the edge, prepare yourself for this jump. Begin by pointing the joystick left to start rolling left along the edge. This fence post will shove us off the edge towards the screen, which is right when you need to jump. I shifted the control stick slightly down here, but mainly left, which should give you enough speed and height to clear this fence entirely, landing Mario on the platform with the chest that contains the double dip badge. Again, this is a completed save file, so I already got the chest, but I promise you this chest is closed when you start a new save. So if you really wanted to get this badge early, here you go. You just need tube mode. But you may be wondering, if you don't have the boat transformation, how on earth do you get back up there? That's where tube mode comes into play once more. We need to use it to jump off the top of the open chest and land onto this ledge where the fence is. The vertical posts are too thick to land on, so you need to aim the jump off the chest into this gap to the right. We then need to get as close to the right post as we can without slipping off. Do a little hop to push Mario about here, as he will clip through it partially. We then need to make another tough jump, going around this post and landing on the next gap of fence. If you pull that off, congrats, you are home free. Just push Mario up and to the right, and eventually the fence we originally jumped over will assist us in clipping back in bounds. So there you go. After a series of very tough jumps, you got yourself double dip early. Now please keep in mind, this glitch is pretty dang tricky. I spent a good 30 minutes just lining up into this corner, falling into the water over and over and over again. It's similar to the last jump we did in the sewers, where you have to wait for Tube Mario to begin falling off the ledge, then jump. Getting back up isn't as bad as you don't lose health every time you fail. So if you either really want to skip using the boat to sail around, or need this badge early, before Chapter 5, go for it. This next one is something. We're able to corrupt Mario's animations simply by throwing Bobbery. It's pretty tricky to explain, but I promise it makes more sense once you try it for yourself. Start by facing right, holding X to put Bobbery in Mario's hands. We then need to begin holding left on the control stick, let go of X, and hold L really fast to bring up the partner ring. If Mario is facing left and Bobbery is still in your hand, you should have a good setup. If you just let go of everything from this point, you can get this neat little slide as you throw Bobbery. But that's not why we're here. So starting over from the top, face right, hold X, then hold the control stick left, and as Mario is pivoting, let go of X and hold L to bring up the partner ring. From here, you can let go of everything besides L, and then begin to hold ZR to enter paper mode. Now once you let go of L, Mario will flash this weird state where he's crying, has the hammer behind him, and spins around a few times. After that, it's back to normal. But I recommend trying to get this part down a few times, as there's even more we can do with it. If we stand in front of a door and do this setup, let go of ZR right after getting it and mash A to get into the door, this will lock Mario in the crying state, but also means other animations just do not happen. So you can just slide around on the floor, hammer without actually moving, and a few other weird looking things. I love this as nothing looks normal anymore and it's just Mario staring off with tears in his eyes. This state will carry through doors, but not through load zones. One other thing I'd like to mention is you can do this while collecting a crystal star, which will make the cleared sequence look like this. Again, I really did not want to play all the way up through this game again just to get to Chapter 5, so enjoy this picture. But yeah, I love this one and can be done pretty much any time with Bobbery and a door. So I think it's about time we talk about one of the best glitches this game has to offer, badge duplication. Badges are a crucial part of this game and gives Mario and his partners all sorts of buffs, stat changes, and turning yourself gold. Always fun to mess around with the different loadouts, and you can really change the way you approach battles. Well, the game limits some of these badges, so you can only pick up one throughout the whole game. So let's abuse an oversight to change that. The setup is a tad annoying, but I think it's worth the grind. So the main crucial part is that you need to have 200 badges. Yes, you heard me right, 200, which is the max this game lets you have. There are 87 unique badges in the game, but there are some duplicates scattered around the world. Plus, the lovely House OoB badges sell some extra ones as well. Unless you want to be spending thousands of coins, the best method for getting badges quickly is the Pianta Parlor. So head down to the local casino that's inside of a Mario game and speak to Lala at the desk. Here, you can trade in those Pianta tokens for items and badges. The best deal here is either the refund or super appeal badge for 60 tokens. After 100%ing my save file by fairly normal means, I ended up with a total of 112 badges, meaning I needed to get enough Pianta tokens for 88 super appeals, which, by the way, is 5,280 tokens. Yikes. Pretty sure the quickest method to get tokens is playing the spicy matching game, but I honestly didn't want to sit there for hours staring at these slots going round and round. Even though there are pretty consistent setups, it takes a lot of focus and time. So I just opted to play the plain game, as it's fairly easy to get anywhere from 20 to 50 tokens every 30 seconds. I didn't keep track of how many times I had to play this, but if I had to give a rough estimate, I spent about 5 hours grinding through like 200 plus runs of this game. My best distance was a 582, by the way. Let me know what y'all's are in the comments. But after all this and 88 super appeals later, I was finally able to get 200 badges and max out my inventory, as you can see here with this message after trying to purchase another one. This was one of the two key components to set up this glitch. The other is that you now have to find a badge in the overworld, either laying on the ground, out of a block, or dropped from an enemy. You cannot purchase the badge. It basically just has to be on the ground in the overworld somewhere. Luckily, I missed a few hidden blocks that had badges in them in the Rogueport sewers, so I'll be using those. But unfortunately, if you have completely 100%ed this game and collected all the extra badges lying around, your only real option is to have an enemy drop one after defeating them. Which, you know, is only about a 1 in 300 chance most of the time. Yeah, so you better hope you missed one somewhere in this game, or it will be a lot harder. So when you have the badge lying on the ground in the max badge count of 200, all you gotta do is pick it up. Yes, this part is that easy. The setup is honestly the toughest part of this. A message will pop up that you have too many badges and need to toss one, which is also the reason you couldn't just purchase your 201st badge, as this message will not appear. Now in your badge list menu, simply select the badge you want to duplicate, toss it, and pick it back up. Just by doing this, you triggered an oversight in the game's code that duplicates the badge, even though it doesn't seem like it yet. From here, you can just repeat this same toss pickup 2 more times for a total of 3 tossed badges, picking them up each time. So 3 is the max you can do per badge you find in the overworld, but on the bright side, it doesn't have to be 3 of the same badge. You can toss one badge on the first time, a different one the second, and another one the third time. At the end, you will have to sacrifice a badge to leave on the ground, as we can only carry 200, but if you're like me, you really don't need 88 super appeals, so I'll just toss one of those. Now all we gotta do is head back to the lovely House OoB badges and go inside. Check the bin on the side and boom. The badges you were tossing and picking up earlier will now be in the shop for you to buy. Yes, it does kind of suck you have to spend money to buy them, but if we never abused this oversight, they would not be in the shop. As you can see here, the first time I did it, I duped 3 flower finders, so along with the one I already had in my inventory, I was up to 4 of a badge you're only supposed to be able to get 1 of. That's not actually entirely true. There is a 2 in 300 chance of an X0 PhD dropping them after battle, but that's still a 0.67 chance, so most people will only buy the one from Dazzle for 6 star pieces. Anyway, yeah, now I have a better chance of a bunch of flowers being dropped after a battle. I believe this just increases the chance of more flowers dropping. Even though I had 4 equipped, it doesn't necessarily mean I will always get flowers after battle now. But yeah, pretty sweet nonetheless. I messed around with it a little more and duped one of each of the lucky badges. Pretty Lucky, Lucky Day, and Lucky Start. Fun fact, the badges can also appear as one of the ones on sale in the badge shop, making them a little easier to afford. So I want to quickly explain why this whole thing happens, as it's technically not a glitch, but an oversight by the way the game's programmed. It doesn't want you to just completely lose badges forever, in case you planned on 100%ing the game later on, so badges you drop and leave behind will later get thrown into the lovely House of badges. But now that I think about it, how many people are really collecting 200 badges without completing the badge list as well? You'd have to be spending an insane amount of coins or Pianta tokens to pull this off. But anyway, once you select a badge to toss on the ground, the game just kind of assumes you aren't going to pick it back up, so it makes a copy in the badge shop. So by either tossing the same one or a variety, you can get 3 off of any badge you find. Now it's worth noting that while most of the badges in this game do stack, some are not additive or linear, but multiplicative. I'm not going to go super in depth as to how badges like these work, but even though a Pretty Lucky gives you a 10% chance of dodging, equipping 2 does not give you 20%, it gives you 19. I found this Reddit post that breaks it down, so you have a 10% chance of dodging, which means you have a 90% chance that an enemy connects, or a 0.9 in decimal form. You then multiply 0.9 by 0.9 to give you 0.81, or an 81% chance that an enemy connects if you were to wear 2, which is where I got 19% from. This pattern continues on, so if you have 3 Pretty Lucky badges, it would be a 27.1% chance. So the last thing I'll say is that due to this nature, you can never truly reach a perfect 100% chance of dodging. The YouTuber Bringle made a really in-depth breakdown of this whole duplication thing, so if you want more information on the calculations and further uses, I highly encourage you to check it out. It's a really good video. But that's where I'll leave off badge duplication, a super useful thing to know and mess around with. All that was kind of a lot, so we're going to take a little break from all the heavy stuff and look at some pointless glitches, and even a few that might not be glitches. But don't worry, we'll get back to some real good ones in a minute or two. While this next one is pretty minor, I had to include some glitch with Flavio, as they took away one of the best glitches from the original GameCube version where you could keep him as a partner for way longer. than you were supposed to. But anyway, in Chapter 5, he does join you for a short time when you're supposed to take him to the entrance of Pirate's Grotto. If you hop on Yoshi during this time, Flavio jumps on Mario's back, creating this goofy looking stack. Well, if you bring this monstrosity to the save block, you can clip his hat inside in some weird ways. Sometimes he'll go over the rainbow part, but in front of the gray border, and other times his hat will be inside the S itself. It's pretty precise, you gotta slowly tap your way in there, and yeah, that's about it. A glitch involving Flavio that's as useful and as in-depth as he is. If you thought that one was pointless, this one's worse. But I wanted to include something Luigi related as well. Following the completion of Chapter 4, before you officially start 5, Luigi can be found in the bar of Rogueport Inn, sharing his infamous tales of the Waffle Kingdom in his quest to save Princess Eclair. Well, I noticed when leaving the inn, the room darkens, leaving the only things visible being the tops of the stairs and Luigi. He just stands there in the black void and looks kinda odd. I don't think there's any other doors throughout the entire game that would show a character like this as you're leaving, so I'm guessing this is just a visual bug since Luigi is only there during this time after Chapter 4 and isn't programmed to darken with the room. I don't know, I could just be crazy, but I thought I looked weird enough to show. What's that? You wanted more pointless visual bugs? Say no more. During Chapter 3 in the Glitz Pit, you'll be told to rip down the Great Gonzalez posters in the lobby. That's Mario, by the way. Using Flurry, you can take them down pretty easily. However, this one that's behind the holographic screen will do this when the peeling off animation starts. Just looks weird the way it suddenly pops in front of this thing, and you may have noticed this one too during a playthrough. It just feels like it should stay behind the screen while this is happening, but again, I don't know, I could just be crazy. Okay, so this one's not actually a glitch at all, but again, I still wanted to include it as it looks really odd. At the end of Chapter 7, the Bowser segment is him showing up late as usual to the Crystal Star location in Poshley Heights. Here you can listen in on snobby conversations and terrorize the residents with your fire breath, which is activated by holding B. Well, instead of holding the button down, try spamming it while moving and facing away from the screen. Since Bowser has to be facing the camera during his animation, it causes his model to go absolutely crazy, constantly spinning around as you just mash the button. Like I said, mashing a button is really not a glitch, but I just thought he looked super off doing this. I wish Bowser got a little more screen time in this game, as some of his segments are hilarious, so I was just messing around with him when I got the chance and found this. You can also make him do a little tap dance routine if you just go side to side. Okay, we are now back on track with ones that are a little more interesting. This one seems very innocent at first, but it gets pretty dang complicated quickly. I want to show off the end goal of this first, just so you're aware of what the mission is. So we're able to get out of bounds in this section of Twilight Town, fall off a roof onto a tiny seam that wraps around the lower section of the area itself out of bounds, walk carefully along it until we get behind the storeroom section of the shop, and jump inside. This allows us to shop in here while the camera is still outside of the building, leading to some very odd looking things. But getting here takes some practice and a few precise jumps. So step 1 is getting in front of Eve's house on the right side of Twilight Town in Chapter 4. To the right of the door are these two pots, with the one on the right being our aid to starting this whole glitch. You're able to stand on top of this one, and from here we need to aim a jump towards the front right corner of the roof. Start by holding right, jumping, and then shifting your control stick upwards. It does take some practice, but eventually Mario will clip through a piece of the ledge and end up on the roof. This also causes the camera to zoom in, which makes this whole next step pretty tricky. We need to jump onto the roof of the storeroom back there, but this tree branch and the slope of the roof kinda make it difficult to walk, so I recommend tapping up and to the left until you can see Mario's shadow behind here. Then carefully tap towards the right until the camera shifts. From here, do a nice easy jump holding up right and you should land on top of the next building. I will talk about what happens if you fall, but for now, let's keep assuming that you made it. Walk towards the main section of the shop and the camera will do another very big camera shift, zooming in on the right side of the building like we were standing inside. Walk down until you can see Mario and then begin walking left. Once Mario gets close to the left edge of the screen, you should start tapping left as we need to get the camera to shift. But if you take another step after this happens, you will likely fall off the shop. Now we have a nice front view and you can see our next target, the building that contains the pipe that takes you inside of the creepy steeple. Now you can make this jump with just Mario, but I found that a lot safer and easier to just hop on Yoshi and flutter across. Leaves less room for error. Now if you're still with me and haven't fallen off yet, congrats, because that was fairly difficult. However, the next step is a lot harder, and if you fail, you have to start all over. Yay. This part also involves some blind movements as the camera does not like Mario being up here, but But you basically have to navigate to the right side of this roof without falling off and walking towards the back to get the camera to shift. I just held right for a few seconds, then held back, but you kind of just gotta feel it out, being careful not to go too far right or you will fall off. But once it does, you can get Mario's shadow to appear on the side of this window, you are making progress. Push the control stick up and to the left so Mario wedges himself into this corner and then jump and tap left. This should put Mario up here with his feet barely showing. Now believe it or not, this is the toughest part and the moment of truth. You need to keep jumping and tapping up slightly each time. Eventually Mario will fall down here, so tap up one more time, and if Mario lands on solid ground, you are in the home stretch. We have landed on a very tiny seam that wraps around the back of this whole area, and it looks something like this. Yeah, very tiny, so don't freely move around or you will fall below the world. Hold down and to the left to make Mario slowly slide across the seam by running into the wall. Keep doing this and you'll begin moving forward faster as we're now on the backmost part of it. We need to continue carefully walking until Mario's shadow is beneath this tree branch on the left side. From here, jump and hold down. Mario should clip inside the wall above and end up inside the shop storeroom. But first, congratulations on making it here. If you end up trying this for yourself, you will truly understand how tedious it can be to make all of those roof jumps and land on the seam. But now we're pretty much done. Walk down and shimmy around until you see the option to open the door, which brings us into the main part of the shop. It behaves like normal, just with the camera outside, as the transition to open up the room never really happened. So text boxes and other UI will appear over top of everything, making it look very strange. This is what the shop normally looks like, so use this to talk to the shop lady, where you can sell and store items if you need to. But yeah, I just purchased an item as a trophy of my accomplishment and messed around in here for a little bit. But when you're done, you can just head out the door to the left like normal, finishing off this glitch journey. So yeah, I did enjoy getting out of bounds in Twilight Town and hopping on some roofs, but as you may have been able to tell, there is no real practical use in doing this. In the storeroom, there is a black chest that gives you the tube mode for Mario, so in a new playthrough, you could get this early by pulling this off. However, getting out is a different story, as this door to get here starts locked off from the other side, so you can't use the door from inside of here. Now there may be a way to clip back out of the building once you get the tube ability, but you gotta keep in mind that you have to do this using only a shadow of Mario for reference, so it's really not viable to do. If I was you, I would just get the store key like normal and leave this glitch until you want to just mess around with it. Which also brings me to my next section of this glitch, because there is more to talk about. What happens if you fall? You see, jumping from roof to roof is a risk, because if you fail and fall down, you can end up technically out of bounds behind these fences. That first jump when you go from Eve's roof to the shop, you jump over a fairly large section that has two sides. On the right is this ladder with a bucket on top, and oh boy is it buggy. If you stand on either side of the ladder and try and jump up, you will end up getting a stutter where Mario constantly jitters up and down. If you keep pressing A, you can get Mario to jump, sometimes landing on top of the bucket. But you still can't escape by jumping from here, as you can't reach the roof or go over the fence. Luckily, if we go into tube mode and roll into this fence post behind the tree, Mario should pop right through easily, meaning you can go back and try the glitch again. Like I mentioned earlier, when on the final roof with the pipe, if you go too far right, you will fall off, which can put you in this tiny pocket in the corner. Getting out of this one is a little different from the first, but just go into tube mode and hop at the left corner between the building and the fence. Mario should pop through eventually, letting us try again. However, if you're on the shop roof and fall off the right side of it, you will end up in this middle pocket. To my knowledge, there does not seem to be any way to escape this one. There's not a lot of objects to work with, and the fence just blocks Mario completely. So if you end up in here, you will likely need to quit and restart from your last save. So please make sure you haven't made a lot of progress before trying this. But I think that's finally everything to do with this out of bounds spot. Even though there isn't much use, I got a lot of enjoyment, as hopping from roof to roof is tricky, but rewarding. And seeing the shop in such a weird state was neat too. So again, probably shouldn't try this to get tube mode early, as you could either fall in one of these spots and need tube mode to get out, and there's no confirmed way to clip out of the storeroom yet, since you'd just be locked inside. Still, a really cool find, and is one of my favorites already. Alright, I don't know why, but this one really bothers me, so if I have to notice it, you do too. Throughout the game, you are able to collect badges that change the way Mario looks, resembling colorways of Luigi, Wario, Waluigi, and the new addition, a full gold version. This carries over into all aspects of the game. The overworld, battles, even one of the quests in the Trouble Center requires you to wear the L emblem to trick a poor Toad into thinking that you are Luigi. Well, another new addition to this game is the Battle Master that appears in each of the main locations and can help you practice attack timings, stylish moves, and guarding. But for some reason. The costume you are wearing does not carry into this practice battle, and you're always forced to wear Mario's Sunday red. Literally every other battle, that was a golf reference by the way. Literally every other battle in this game, you get to keep your outfit on, just not with the Battle Master. I don't know about you, but it's super important for me to sharpen my skills while wearing the outfit I plan to wear for tough battles, like bosses and the Pit of 100 Trials. Not exactly sure if this was intentional for some reason, or they just forgot to program this since it is a new and unique thing, but dang, it bothers me now that I notice it. I tried entering practice while wearing each of the costumes to see if anything would change, but nothing did. Nintendo, please release an update solely fixing this and absolutely nothing else. It would make my day. Well, it wouldn't be fair if I was showing you all these glitches in the Thousand Year Door without actually doing any in the Thousand Year Door itself. And this is probably one of the best ones that still work in the new version. We need to get to this section in the Palace of Shadow sub-level 2, which takes place after this hidden spike room. Once here, I'd recommend saving, because we're going to be breaking the game a good bit. The setup is actually pretty easy. We just need to do a spin jump and have Mario land on the fire bar before touching the ground again. I recommend standing in one's path, jumping over it, then keeping A held down, start up a small spin jump, and release it once it gets close. Mario should hop up a bit, land on the fire, and then get sent back. While it doesn't seem like anything happened, do me a favor and swap partners. You'll notice no animation happens, and your current partner just poofs out of existence. We are now in a state called No Active Partner, or NAP for short. You see, we sort of tricked the game into thinking we were still in the middle of a spin jump. Normally when you enter a spin jump, or other modes like plane or tube, your partner jumps inside Mario to stick together. But since we got hit by the fire bar in mid-air, it interrupted the hopping back out of Mario part. We can confirm this as if we have NAP active and just do another spin jump, the partner comes back out and we are back to normal completely. Going through doors also corrects this state. However, if we already have Yoshi as our partner, activate the glitch, mount Yoshi, then switch to another partner, this happens. We now basically have solo control of just Yoshi and can use other partners at the same time. Like here, Vivian brings an invisible Mario down under while Yoshi stays up top. And if we throw Bobbery, we can see Mario for a second before going invisible again. This is also why I recommended saving, because you can cause the game to crash pretty easily by doing things like switching partners before Bobbery blows up. So this save block being right here is very helpful. Anyway, while this double partner glitch is active, we can go through doors and keep this state. I went back to the spike room, and taking damage by them will cause Yoshi's egg to appear with him while the damage animation is taking place. Getting into a battle causes Mario to enter the stage while riding your other partner, so in my case, Vivian here, which looked funny. And then after the battle, you'll still have the state. You're kind of blocked off this way as there are stairs with no real way to jump, so you can correct this state by switching to Yoshi and then hopping off like normal. I tried going to the right to see if we could do more, but these fire bars cause you to take damage and running through them is very tricky. Luckily we can do it on the far side where these fire line bar things spawn. And if you time a spin jump perfectly where one's spawning at your feet, you can get it that way. This allows us to go through the doors to the right and reach the Palace of Shadow courtyard. And now I get to show off another really cool part of this whole glitch. Boat mode. If you go over to the boat panel and transform, you immediately fall into the water and take damage, showing us this really messed up texture of Mario. Upon landing back on the ground, boom, we are just a boat sliding on land. Holding A will cause you to flutter, bringing back the unfolded boat texture, and you can use other partners as well to cause the same effect. The final thing is if you switch to Yoshi and unmount him. I thought this would bring us back to normal, but nope. We are now walking around with water at our feet and cannot jump or really do anything. The game still thinks we're in boat mode. You can correct all of this by simply going over to the boat panel and unboat, completely ending the state. I could show another 20 minutes of this glitch, but I want to show off as many as I can, and I think I already covered the main parts of this. If you want to see more possibilities, check out the links in the description. On the base 1.0.0 of this game, you can do this in a lot more places by using Miss Mao's text storage, which is a whole other can of worms, but at least this is still possible on the newest 1.0.1. Well guys, despite my best efforts to take a break from Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, a glitch from that game has seeped its way into the TTYD remake. I'm going to show you it now before explaining what it is, so see if you can spot it. It takes place as Tech announces he's going to sacrifice himself. RIP, but like not really, cause you know. Anyway, I don't know if you caught it, but as the camera was switching from Tech's view back to the main front view, there is a single frame where Mario and Yoshi can be seen facing away from Tech as it switches camera angles. This is interesting though, because this would mean they're facing the back wall and not towards Tech here. and Mario and Yoshi swap places when it's back to the front view. So I'm guessing as it switches between scenes, they switch places, but it's interesting they don't hide the turn from the player. Not to get too sidetracked here, but this also happens quite frequently in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, where characters either go back to T-posing or despawn completely a frame before they are supposed to. Anyway, I can't say with 100% confidence, but this likely means that the same thing could happen in other cutscenes throughout the game. It is really tough to see unless you are already looking for it, so there's a good chance I missed other times that this happened. Let me know if you notice this happening at any point, because there may be funnier ones out there where it's not just Mario turning around. So this next one is kind of weird as it was like half patched. You'll see what I mean. But anyway, go down to the Rogueport Sewers sub-level 3, where there's a spring going up to the 1,000-year door. Whoa, it's the name of the game. Jump up the spring and land on the upper ledge. Begin jumping backwards by pressing A, then tapping right while in the air until it looks something like this, with Mario's left foot practically over the side. Now switch to Yoshi if you don't have him out already and hop on him. We now need to pull up the partner ring and swap to anyone else, but make sure you start holding right on the control stick as the confirmation noise plays, which causes Mario to fall down before he's able to swap partners. Once you land, the swap will happen, but you may have noticed we landed on a spring and did not bounce back up like you normally would. By doing this, we cause the spring to ignore Mario, and we can just walk around on it. To my knowledge, this is not possible with any spring without doing this setup first. There's really only two things we can mess around with from this point. If you hammer, the spring will activate, but Mario will stay standing on it, which looks kind of funny. I don't even know why this causes it to activate, because hammering it from any side won't trigger this, but the only other thing we can do is defusing Bobbery while he's active. Normally he walks off and blows up after a few seconds, but I guess the spring activating causes the animation to stop on the spot, so you can get the confetti to appear while he just remains on the ground. But that's really all you can do. Remember how I said this was half patched? Well, the one half that got removed in the update was the way cooler side effect called spring storage. If you do the same setup on version 1.0.0, hammer the spring, walk off and walk away, the next time you jump, Mario will go flying into the air with the same height he would have gotten with the spring, which is really interesting and looks like you have a moon jump cheat code on or something. But unfortunately, regardless of version, I think this is the only spring with this sort of setup where you can fall directly onto it. Only other springs I had in mind were this one in Hooktail's Castle, which has a very tiny ledge blocking you from walking off, and this one in Keelhole Key, but this one's just out of reach where you can't fall onto it. But there may be some other spring out there that I'm missing. Anyway, back to the point of this tangent, even though you can get spring storage, you can really only use it to jump up this ledge, which doesn't have anything anymore, and skip a few stairs on the far side. I doubt this spring jump would even store through a pipe, but you can't get to it anyway without jumping on this ledge. So while this does look really cool, it's not a huge deal that's patched since you can only really jump in this room. But even with the patch, you can still stand on the spring, which looks kind of cool to do once or twice. So next is a really neat way to get out of bounds, and all we need is Yoshi. Across the whole game, there are these flippable panels in the ground. To click the star piece underneath, you would need to do a spin jump next to one. However, that's not what we're here for. Instead, stand on the left edge of the panel, hammer, and then try to spam X to hop on Yoshi. I can't really find a consistent setup. Sometimes Mario will wait a long time to hop on, but other times he will do it too quick and get pushed underneath the panel. Unfortunately, most of the time there is nothing to stand on down here, so Mario will begin falling through and eventually respawn back on land. But there are a few spots that do allow us to get something out of this. First is the panel behind Zest's house next to this Goomba. For some reason there is solid ground, and as you can see, Mario's hat is barely sticking out of the floor. I tried to walk back to the main plaza, but the floor ended and caused me to respawn. But since the camera was facing backwards, we now have access to the front section with the camera behind us. This looks super cool to me. Even though the buildings do obstruct the camera a lot of the time, it can still be fun to mess around with. Speaking of which, if you navigate to a door, it seems normal at first, but upon leaving, the camera will get locked onto it. So you can just walk off screen, but the camera will not budge. I fixed this by walking under the archway to the left, which I think caused the camera to do its normal transition from the backside back to the front, even though we were already on this side, so it just assisted in correcting the glitch. But I still had more in mind to try, so this time I got the Charlie tin and bought an item from him, all while staring at a brick wall, and was also able to clip the camera inside of the shop, giving me a messed up view of some of the items on sale. This did the same thing of locking the camera in place once I went outside, but it seems like if you just walk a few feet away, it will correct itself on its own. After getting out, it is possible to reach the other side on the left. You just have to hug the front wall, which gives us the ability to clip inside of the bandit house, which doesn't really do anything special. The camera doesn't change, and once you walk out of the door, everything's back to normal. If you go into tube mode and then jump into the inn, the camera switches to the front view, but you can't see much of what's going on. Walking through the door just gives us the same camera lock as before. So I think that's basically all you can do from this spot, but don't worry, there are still more. Inside the bar of the sewer underground town spot, there is another panel. Again, don't really have a consistent lineup. I believe there is some luck in this, but just do slight readjustments on the edge if you aren't clipping through after a few attempts. But anyway, this one actually doesn't have solid ground, so you do fall, but this causes you to respawn at the start of the room, which is the right entrance, placing us in a gray void. It has the same collision as the town itself, so you can just see me moving up and down this elevator. The only thing that's visible is the bar building, so I just messed around with this from the memory I had of this place. You can't enter any other doors besides the bar, which corrects everything. You can also hit load zones out here, which just corrects everything as well. The final spot I wanted to show involves doing an extra piece of setup. As you're likely aware, you can flutter while riding Yoshi, which lets us move left or right for a few seconds. Meaning, as we're falling through the floor and there's no ground below us, we can keep ourselves alive for a few seconds longer. But in this spot in front of the XX Express, that is so hard to say. If we do a normal panel clip and flutter shortly after that to the left, we can land out of bounds on the train tracks. This is easier said than done, as we not only have to avoid smashing this toad in the face, but you also have to begin fluttering right after you clip through, as there is not a whole lot of room to wait. Once you get this, you are basically home free. You should get enough distance to reach the ground off to the left, so just hop behind the bushes and we are on the train tracks. The collision here is very buggy obviously, but we need to get behind the train. I found the best spot is by this black connector piece. I went inside paper mode and jumped a few times to get through. And now if we walk around, we can stand on the front of the train and clip back through where the pipe is past Stuart, skipping the need for a ticket. While at first this does seem like it's possible to get to chapter 3 early, skipping the whole Don Pianta mob boss shenanigans, I must remind you that the whole setup from getting here involves our guy Yoshi, which you don't get until chapter 3 anyway, so this is just more for style points. We also can't get on the XX Express early, which would start chapter 6, as we need the whole sequence of showing your train ticket to the toad. So sadly, not a whole lot of use, but I still enjoyed doing it. This also wraps up our Yoshi panel clipping adventure. The rest of the panels throughout the world are also clippable, but none of them have solid ground or anywhere you can flutter to. So you can do this anywhere you see a panel, but you can't do anything after that besides respawning at the start of an area. I did try it in Petalburg, which caused Mario to immediately fall in water, getting the fish to come through the ground, which looked kinda cool. This one's really dumb, but I wanted to more just showcase the concept that this is possible. In Poshley Heights, right next to Bub is this fence. The game tries to prevent you from landing on it by pushing you to either side, but there's one tiny spot where if you either jump or spin jump right onto it, Mario will just clip halfway inside, with a fence going through his body. Can't really move much or else you'll clip back out, but you can do a spring jump and ultra hammer in place. Looks kind of funny, but mainly wanted to show this to show you that this type of clip is likely possible in plenty of other areas throughout the game. We just gotta find them. Maybe this could be used to get out of bounds or clip through a wall, but I think it's just more of a funny haha moment. I'd say this next clip is one of the easiest in the game, and all we need is Yoshi. Head to the underground town on sublevel 1 of Rogueport and up to the shop. All we gotta do is stand on this box, walk left, and as Mario is about to fall off the box, hop on Yoshi. This will clip the both of you through the ground and onto a solid platform below. But be careful, cause yeah, that'll happen. There's unfortunately not a lot of room to work with, but let me show you all that's still possible. If you carefully walk underneath the door, you can do a spring jump and smash off the top of the shop ceiling and end up inside. For some weird reason though, this doesn't actually let you buy items or interact with the NPC, so all we can really do is leave through the door and try again. There is a very thin platform we can use to cross to the other side. Once here, use your hammer facing the back wall to carefully tap up, and once the hammer doesn't hit anything and we're over the void, jump back and to the left behind the teleporter house. We aren't actually inside of it, but behind the wall. So once you want to clip back out, you can go into tube mode, hop a few times against this rock, and get out. We can do the same technique of swinging the hammer till you miss and make the same jump to get out of bounds on this side of the wall. Again, not a lot to do, and getting back in bounds on this side is a little harder. Go paper mode near this pile of cans, jump a few times, and you should get out. So yeah, while this may be the easiest way to get out of bounds, there is not a lot we can do here. There is a very slim chance we could use this to get inside of the teleporter room, which could skip us all the way to chapter 7, but I don't think the teleporter will be active until you reach the matching one on the moon and boot it up from that side. So, rip that dream. This one could not be more pointless, but I found it myself accidentally, so don't say I don't contribute to finding glitches. Some NPCs in this game have a walking path, whether that be left and right, or up and down. They do not freely roam. Using this knowledge, if you stand in the path of the route and face away from them, they will try to continue walking, but get stuck on Mario, leaving them in their walking animation indefinitely until you move. You can seemingly do this with any of the walking NPCs, it's just important you face away from them, or else the A to talk bubble will appear and they will stop walking by default. So if you want to torture some poor NPCs, all you gotta do is stand in the way, facing away. We're going to finish off our glitch journey with something you can do right at the beginning of the game. This is a speedrunning trick, Goomba Trio Skip, or GTS. Very early on in the game, you, Goombella, and Professor Frankly are supposed to go down to the 1,000-year door. But on the way, you run into this Goomba trio that you're supposed to fight. Following the fight, you take this platform in the back over to the pipe. But what if we could just jump onto that platform before starting this whole thing? Well, we can, but it's pretty tricky. This is what the end result looks like. We basically need to jump in the gap between the moving platform and the pipe platform, get squished and pushed up into it. While this doesn't look too tough, it is. There's some invisible collision around this area, making it a little harder to get a good jump. Like we were doing before with those other jumps to get the star piece early and all that, we need to start falling off the ledge, then do the jump. The game gives you a few frames of leeway to jump, so we need to start by running into the wall, holding slightly up left, then switch to up right, wait until you begin falling, then jump. If you get something like this where Mario jumps straight back, you are on the right track. You then need to perform this exact jump while the platform is moving towards the pipe. A good visual cue is when the shadow of this platform reaches the end of this black scrape in the wall. That's when you need to jump. So if you do both of these perfectly, Mario will get pushed up onto the platform, skipping the Goomba trio fight entirely. This could save you some time as you never have to fight them. By the time you go down, unlock paper plane mode, and visit the 1,000-year door, they basically just get despawned as the game assumes you fought them already. I say could because this is fairly difficult to pull off and took me about 30 minutes of constantly jumping at this wall. The battle sequence probably takes about a minute and a half or so if you don't make the jump within that time, it's likely going to be a reset. In the future, I'll be very curious to see how many runners can pull this off first try consistently, as it took me a very long time to only get it once. So there you have it, about 25 glitches that are still possible in Paper Mario the 1,000-Year Door Switch Remake, that also work on the newest 1.0.1 update. So whether you were smart and kept it on the base 1.0.0 version, or got stuck into auto-updating like me, these glitches will work on both. A super massive thank you to everyone in the Paper Mario TTYD speedrunning server for documenting these glitches that they found, especially those on screen now. If you're still on 1.0.0, I highly recommend you either check out the Discord or their channels linked below, as Nintendo patched out some of the more useful and interesting glitches, like Miss Mouse text storage, which completely breaks the game, and the funny blue key early glitch that I tried myself. All you have to do is use Koops in this load zone and he'll pull the key from off screen. But since my old Switch kept overheating, I had to buy a new one recently and completely forgot to turn off auto updates. So I decided to turn it in my favor and cover all the glitches that still work. Not sure if Nintendo plans to release any more updates for this game. They usually don't, especially with single player ones like these. They usually put out one patch early on to annoy speedrunners and then never touch it again. So here's to hoping. But for now, I'm gonna get out of here. Thank you guys so much for watching, and as always, see ya!